the Stinger with the Stinger splash and everything. Magical run in TNA Wrestling. What is up, guys? Chase Oliver here, bringing you once again the NFL Week 5 recap of the 2022 season. Thank you all for who tuned in last week. Thank you all who are tuning in now live, or if you're listening on Spotify or watching the archive here on YouTube, I appreciate that. Hey, for all those people that are wondering, Chase, did you ever record that wrestling podcast? I did. I upload on Spotify and it's here on YouTube. So if you guys like pro wrestling as well as the NFL, check out this channel. Just subscribe to the Chilling with Chase channel. It's the best place to be when talking about all these things. But I'm not alone for the Week 5 recap. With me, as always, is my co-host, Anthony Gentleman. Anthony, how are you doing?
Living the life, Chase. It's good to be back here. Most importantly, it's good the Minnesota Vikings are 4-1.
Yeah, we'll talk about my Chargers in a moment, Anthony. But first, everyone in the chat, and everyone here watching live and on Spotify, we just got to give a moment of silence because we lost our first head coach in the National Football League. Anthony, let's give a quick moment of silence to one Matt Rhule. All right, that was long enough. Fuck him. Matt Rhule stunk. I said it last week on this show, Anthony. He's not even a top 50 head coach. And there's only 32 head coaches in the NFL. And the Panthers realized that this guy wasn't the guy, and they fired him. And it seems like a huge fire sale is going to happen with the Panthers. We don't know if it's going to be this week. Could be next week. It could be like after this game against the Rams. I have the bold prediction that the Panthers are going to play spirited. They're going to play happy. They're going to upset the Los Angeles Rams this week. And half the roster might be traded. Who knows? But what is your thoughts on Matt Rhule no longer being the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, Anthony?
You know, when they first hired him, I was kind of it didn't really move me. It was like, okay, I sure. We haven't seen a lot of college coaches make the transition well to the NFL. And Matt Rhule was definitely one of them who did not. And it felt like it was a very long time coming. I'm surprised he made it to year 3, but when he had as big of a contract as he did, I guess that's why. Yeah, he did bad. I mean, what positive can you really look at in his time with Carolina? There's none, really. They just became the worst team in their division consistently. You know, they were fighting with the Falcons for who was going to be in 4th place in the division. Mm-hmm. That's all they're left with. And they brought in how many different quarterbacks in this short time there? Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. They bring in all these former first-round draft picks that didn't do great on their previous teams, hoping it would change for them, and it didn't. And, you know, what do they have to show for it? Not much.
Zilch. I mean, and keep in mind, a lot of people forget the Panthers had to sell their team. Like David, the old owner, pretty much got caught into a controversial situation, had to sell the team. Matt Rhule's signing was literally like supposed to be, this is the new Panthers, the new culture, the breath of fresh air that the Carolina Panthers needed. And ultimately, it didn't turn out that way. Ultimately, it ended up failing, and Matt Rhule failed as a head coach in the NFL. He had this 7-year plan. He said, hey, let the 7-year plan pan out. Well, this 7-year plan stunk. You couldn't win any football games unless you scored 17 points. You couldn't even put up 17 points most of the time that you were a head coach. You had a guy in Joe Brady who was a great offensive coordinator for LSU, led one of the most dominant college offenses. You were supposed to be an offensive wizard as a head coach coming in from Baylor. Everyone thought, Matt Rhule, he's going to change the culture. Look at all the players he has. He has players that are versatile. That's what the Carolina Panthers were pretty much signing all these players for. They were signing these weapons, these guys that don't really have a true positionless football. It was supposed to be the Panthers were going to lead the positionless football era in this new era in the NFL. And we've seen it, other teams pick up that positionless football style. See the 49ers. Deebo Samuel is a positionless player, in my personal opinion. He's a great football player, but is he a wide receiver or running back? He's kind of a little bit of both. I like what he does on both sides of the ball. Cordell Patterson found home as a running back, but he also plays wide receiver. Look at Taysom Hill. So we thought that was going to be the Panthers with the roster and the talent, the minds behind it. But no, Matt Rhule, I don't know if it was ego. I don't know if it was him not being able to lead actual men and not young college kids. I don't know what it is, but when it came down to it, he ultimately failed as a head coach. And, he's making a bunch of money. What is he making? Like $840K a year. He's going to make $840K a month just to sit around home and do
Yeah.
nothing. And he might go to a college and get paid some more. I mean, it could be worse. It could it could be worse for one Matt Rhule. By the way, if you guys have any comments or questions, keep them in the comment section, and we will answer them as much as possible. That's what you get when you come here live on the YouTube channel. You get the comments and the questions. But Anthony, this weekend, speaking of one horrible head coach, we got to talk about the horrible head coaching that was going on this weekend. Now, Anthony, I'm pretty sure you saw the greatest football game of all time this past Thursday, the Broncos and the Seahawks. What a barn burner, 12-6. Oh my God, what a beautiful game that was. Nathaniel Hackett, I don't think he knows what's going on half the time. I don't think he watches what's going on in the field. He might be distracted. He might be thinking like what he wants for dinner. He might be like thinking about like what's he going to listen to when he's working out. Because I don't know why this guy is going for it on fourth down when you could get an easy 3 points. And the Falcons, not the Falcons, I'm sorry, just because of Matt Ryan. The Colts have shown that they can't score. These guys can't score. They can't score whatsoever. So why are you going for it on 4th and 2 when you can easily just say, hey, let's take our 3, get our 3 points, and see if they can drive 80 yards down the field? No, he goes for it. He misses it. Once again, we talked about it last week. Russ is cooked. He looks terrible. But Nathaniel Hackett, Anthony, this guy's just horrible. Like, as someone that, supports the Broncos like yourself, what are your thoughts when you watch Nathaniel Hackett coach?
To me, is pretty, in particular, that last drive, the game-losing drive, when they go for it on fourth down. I get it. You're that close to the end zone. It's a 4th and short. I get wanting to go for it, but what in the past 60-plus minutes of that game showed to you that you'd be confident enough that they would convert it? I didn't have any confidence, and that's exactly what happened. They didn't convert it. They should have taken their 3 points. Like you said, they probably could have stopped the Colts easy. Realistically, yeah, you're playing for the tie there. I think there was like 3 minutes left on the clock. There wasn't a ton of time left. So even if they were able to get the ball back, they probably wouldn't be able to get into field goal range. But man, to me, it felt like if you go for it, you're not converting. So why don't you just take the 3 points? No, you're probably at least going to tie. Maybe have a chance of winning if you can get the ball back. But I mean, he's made a ton of terrible decisions. The worst part is that was a primetime game against a team that played just as poor as them. So, I like, he should not, by week 18, he should no longer be the head coach of the Denver Broncos. I truly believe, people said maybe the reason the Broncos hired him was because they were hoping they could sway Aaron Rodgers to come with Nathaniel Hackett as the head coach. Like at this point, it's like, that's got to be like, why would George Payton hire him otherwise? Like, I can't imagine. There are so many good people out there. As a big Doug Peterson fan, he's done okay in Jacksonville. One of the better Jacksonville head coaches the last few years. But man, Nathaniel Hackett, terrible move hiring him.
Yeah, no, he is just absolutely horrible. I think absolutely horrible as a head coach. I just think he doesn't know what's going on half the time. Just like my coach, Anthony. Brandon Staley. As a non-Charger fan, Anthony, what when you hear Brandon Staley, what do you think of? What is the first thing you think of when you hear Brandon Staley?
Why? Why? I didn't get why your Chargers had to go out and hire him.
No, that's your first thing. Oh, okay. But I was always the biggest Staley defender. I don't know if I can defend him anymore, Anthony. So this to paint you the picture. This was a close game against the Browns. It was a shootout. The commentators even joked about it that, if this team's on the docket, they're not going to be playing in these early morning games. It might be a primetime game because these are fun. Austin Eckler's having a great rushing game. Even Joshua Kelly's having a great rushing game. But our defense, we just can't stop anything. Brandon Staley's defense, by the way, this defense that we built for his vision. I mean, this defense is like me playing Madden with the Chargers, right? I'm just confused why nothing's happening and stuff of that nature. So the Chargers let up a huge game-changing play. Corey Legit, an old Charger player, but Jerry Tillery, almost close enough, does not sack Jacoby Brissett. Brissett goes and he runs for a nice 20-yard gain. And it looks like that the Browns are going to score a touchdown. But then afterwards, Jacoby Brissett throws his third interception and less than 2 minutes left in the game, or less than 3 minutes left in the game. It is a horrible stat to have. So The Chargers are driving. They're driving. They made some bold plays during this drive. Browns have 0 timeouts. It's 4th and 2. What would you do in this situation, Anthony? 0 timeouts, 4th and 2 on your own 42. What would you do?
Not what Staley did, that's for sure.
Well, you would punt it, right? You would say, hey, I punt it. This man decided,
yes.
you know what? Let's go ahead and let's call a slant route. Let's call a route for Mike Williams. That's what Coach Staley decided to do. An absolutely ridiculous play call by Coach Staley. What the hell are you doing here, Coach? Calling a slant route, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, what about the DPI?" And who cares? That's not the issue here. The issue is that was a horrible play call. And the Chargers, they should be thanking Cade York. They should literally be thanking him. They should send him like a gift basket. He should have gotten a game ball. Cade York should have gotten a game ball for missing that kick. Because otherwise we would have lost by 1 point, and I'd be sitting here looking at 2 and 3. But instead, the Chargers are 3 and 2, which I'm grateful for. I'm grateful we're 3 and 2. But this decision making was just absolutely horrible. But Anthony, I can't believe I'm saying it, dude. Even though Coach Staley was bad on Sunday, I think Zach Taylor was worse. I think Zach Taylor was worse than Coach Staley on Sunday. I don't know what this man's thinking. These McVay guys, Anthony, I think they need to go. I'm tired of all these McVay. I think you're feeling it too. I think you're going to feel it with Kevin O'Connell soon enough, Anthony. We're going to be like, yeah, Chase, I'm done with these McVay guys. I'm done with these people because they're not doing what we expect them to do. So Zach Taylor finally gets a drive on that Baltimore Ravens, which makes no sense because the Ravens defense has been folding to everyone. Like everyone's been scoring on the Ravens defense. Tua was scoring on the Ravens defense, and the Buffalo Bills came back on the Ravens defense. So it looked like the Ravens were going to do what they do best, choke. Joe Burrow was leading a good drive. And then all of a sudden they get to the red zone. And yes, the red zone's hard to score in. So what does Zach Taylor call? Anthony, he says, "Oh, you know what'll be spicy? The Philly special. We'll do the Cincy special here." Yeah. Let's do the Cincy special with your quarterback that's still recovering from a torn ACL. It's not like that knee's not bad or anything. Let's have it where he's going to get covered by a hard hitting safety and Marlon Humphrey. That makes sense. Marcus Peters. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Have it where Joe Burrow's running a route. What are we doing here? This is absolutely ridiculous what he's doing. And so that fails. It gets blown up. And then afterwards, the next play was a run play. Got some yards to it. It's 4th and 2, Anthony. They're only down by 6. Or no, they could have tied it with the field goal.
Yep.
Should you just not take your points?
You should take your points.
What does he do instead, Anthony?
Goes for it.
He does a shovel pass. He thinks that freaking Mike Williams, whoever the heck he was throwing it to, Michael Thomas, not the actual Michael Thomas. He thinks that guy, the fake Michael Thomas. He thinks this guy's Travis Kelce. He tried to do the KC shovel pass that I've seen a gajillion times in my life. This guy's a moron. And this led to the Bengals now being 2 and 3 because the Ravens, they just said, screw it. Because the Ravens were in the same situation. John Harbaugh could have gone for it at 4th and 2, and he has a quarterback that you would trust would go for it. But he said, screw it. The Bengals have not shown me at all that they can score a touchdown in this game. My defense has been holding up. I'm going to trust in them. Justin Tucker, best kicker ever. Go kick that 3 points. We're up 16 to 13. No, 17 to 13. So the Bengals, they can't even tie it with the field goal. They have to score a touchdown to win. And it's because of the coaching that they don't. I mean, Anthony, what is with Zach Taylor? Why is this guy so bad? He has such a great offense. Why is he so bad? What is this guy thinking?
I don't know. When I was not a big fan, to me, and I think a lot of people felt this when they hired him, when the Bengals hired him, it was kind of like, wow, that they really are hired. Teams are really hiring anybody Sean McVay coached with. And he did make a Super Bowl last year, but he was not good up until last season. And now, the honeymoon period's over. They went to their Super Bowl. He's come back down to earth. It's crazy to think he actually was part of the head coach of a team that went to the Super Bowl because, man, he's not good. I feel like you would think, the Bengals kept Marvin Lewis around for a long time. So who knows how long he's going to be. But the way he's coached, yeah, he should get at least one more year, especially after going to Super Bowl. But man, like he's sure not making a strong case for himself.
Yeah, I don't understand. You just look at the talent. It just makes no sense. Even with T. Higgins being injured, not being healthy, you still have Jamar Chase. How are you not saying, okay, Jamar Chase, okay, maybe he's not what we thought he was, because before the season, everyone was crowning Jamar Chase as one of the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL. Maybe he's still in the top 10, but he's a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And like Larry Fitzgerald said, when he's covered, he's open. So why don't you just say, hey, Joe Burrow, you have this special connection. We, instead of drafting an offensive line, instead of drafting Panay Sewell, we decided to draft Jamar Chase for you. How are you not just drawing up plays where Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow can get some rhythm going? How is Tyler Boyd not being open whatsoever? How are you not designing plays for him? Like, Hayden Hurst is really the only reliable receiving option I've seen since watching the Bengals. And it's absolutely ridiculous that Jamar Chase, minus week 1, he's just been pedestrian. He's been, like, honestly, Anthony, I'll go far to say he's a fantasy bust. He's not performing as well as someone who's drafted in the first round of a fantasy draft. Yeah. And I feel like if you have if you have Jamar Chase in your league, sell low. Decide to sell him before it's too late. Heck, if he has a good game against the Saints, trade him. Trade him automatically. Don't even say, oh, this is it. This is where. No, just trade him. Because you'll be better off, because people will be dumb and they'll trade it. But you know what's also dumb, Anthony?
What?
Roughing the passer. This past week, we had 2 terrible, egregious roughing the passer calls. Now, in the rules of the new NFL rules to protect the quarterbacks. As we know, concussions have been an issue lately in the NFL. A lot of players actually were in the concussion protocol this week, and some of them felt like they were fine to play, but because of the new protocols, they said, hey, we got to take this seriously. So against the Falcons, Tom Brady, our good friend Tom Brady, we talked about him, last week. He had some issues with his wife or something. Tom Brady gets slung around by Grady Jarrett. Looks like just a sack. It doesn't look like it's a terrible play whatsoever. Just looks like a sack. The referees throw and call it roughing the passer. What was your thoughts when you saw that play where Grady Jarrett goes and he slings around Tom Brady? Did you think it was roughing the passer? Did you feel like there was ill intent whatsoever? Because it looked like a clean sack to me, Anthony.
Well, that helped clinch the game, so I was okay with it. I gave it the pass. I was happy to see Tom Brady and his team win, but
oh my goodness,
that was not the best. I feel like because of what just happened with Tua, the NFL is trying to crack down on that, and because this obviously isn't the first time we've had roughing the passer issues in the NFL, but it hasn't been as bad lately up until very recently, and I think it has to do with what happened with Tua. So Miami is continuing to ruin things in the NFL for everybody else.
Yeah, it's just like I understood what they're talking about. Like if they feel like the defensive player swung him on purpose and was trying to land him on the head, but in my eyes, Grady Jarrett just was spun Brady around trying to get him down to the ground. It didn't look like it was ill intent. In fact, the game we're also going to be talking about with this roughing the passer BS, the Chiefs and the Raiders, same thing happened to Mahomes. Mahomes literally got sacked the same exact way Brady did, spun around and everything. And Mahomes even looked, is that not a flag? Because for Brady, they threw a flag, but for Mahomes, they didn't. But then Derek Carr, I've never seen this, Anthony. Chris Jones goes ahead, defeats whoever he's facing on the offensive line, strips sacks Derek Carr, has the ball in his hand, Derek Carr and him fall on the ground. And what did the referee call on that play? Roughing the passer. Have you seen that before, Anthony? Someone with a ball in their hand gets called roughing the passer.
No, I mean, that one especially is kind of like, what's going on? I think I saw that they're trying to review that. They're trying to be like, what's going on? The NFL is, but they're not going to make any changes this year. We'll see if this continues. I feel like this is. I don't think this is the start of it. I think this is probably just it was a weekend where this just happened a lot. But if this does continue, oh man, people are going to get upset.
Now, granted, I know a lot of people are going to be mad at the referees, but we also got to understand when you're seeing like these 300-pound humans and they're moving at like literally like super fast before your eyes, it's hard to tell 50-50. So I understand sometimes that the referees, they're just kind of going based off what they see on the field. But I feel like it should almost be like the targeting rule in college where they like look over the thing to see if it was targeting and whatnot and say there was no targeting. I feel like that should be the thing for roughing the passers for now on. If you throw a flag for roughing the passer, go ahead and review that. I feel like that should be something that's reviewable, and then you can make a judgment there because then they can see. Because I'll be honest, if I was there on the field and I saw Tom Brady get spin around, I'll be like, oh shoot, maybe he got land on his head. Who knows? It's like one of those hard things to see when you're going in person, especially in those live games. And these NFL players, they're freaks, they're monsters. They move so fast. It's hard to tell. Like it's hard for anyone to kind of notice what's going on with them. But Anthony, we don't know what's going on with the Raiders, man. So I gotta ask Anthony, your opinion. Why are the Raiders 1-4? Why are they bad? Why do they stink?
I mean, it's pretty obvious to me. It's because of who they decide to hire at head coach. I don't know why teams think Josh McDaniels is the guy. The Colts got lucky. They didn't get him. They were going to get him, and he changed his mind at past the 11th hour. That's how much he changed it. They got lucky. So then a few years later, the Raiders are like, let's take him in. I don't get it, especially them. I mean, it was about a decade ago. You watched your division rival Denver Broncos hire this man, and he did nothing for them. Why do you think it's going to be different? Even if you want to put that aside, like the recent Bill Belichick hirings, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, they've done terrible too. So it's like, what is possibly pointing you in the direction that, yeah, let's hire Josh McDaniels and he's going to change the Raiders. I mean, he's changed them for the worse. They made the playoffs last year with an interim head coach. And now Josh McDaniels has just done so bad. Like, to me, is by far the reason they've been struggling this year. You bring in Devontae Adams, who's still one of the best wide receivers in the league. And it's like a waste. You're wasting your time with Devontae Adams. I don't know.
A prime year of Devontae
honestly,
Adams.
They're paying big money for Devontae Adams. He still is, in his prime, and they're wasting it. Derek Carr's a good enough quarterback to get you to the playoffs. He's done it a couple times, but man, oh man, a terrible hiring decision. Because of that, Raiders are paying the consequence.
Yeah, to me, it's just like this team. It felt like they made like the secondary moves, like they got Devontae Adams, which was great, but I didn't feel like receiver was the issue with the Raiders. I felt the issue with the Raiders was more of a defensive side of the ball type of issue. And when it comes down to it, they signed Chandler Jones, and I've been on the theme with Max Crosby. Guy gets a lot of pressure, just doesn't show the sacks, doesn't get the numbers to back up these type of pressure that this guy does, put on the quarterbacks. Like he just doesn't get the sack numbers. And this game against the Chiefs, this is another game that they should have easily won, but yet they blew the lead of this game. And that's why I was saying the issue with the Raiders is not really, the offensive side of the ball. I feel like, they have the talent on offense. I feel if you just give Derek Carr a couple good, solid wide receivers, it will work. But now, they don't have other solid wide receivers. Matt Collins is a cement, pretty much a cement guy. And what I call a cement guy is someone with no speed down the field. He's not going to scare anyone. And pretty much he's just a big, tall target. Hunter Renfrow is, he's not really being Hunter Renfrow because there's no one else to complement him. Like last year. Last year, they had a bunch of speedsters that would complement Hunter Renfrow. And when Renfrow was running his routes, the other DBs would have to worry about those speedsters running past them and getting into the end zone. So it lets some room for Hunter Renfrow to operate. And it feels like, it's just like if you can just bracket the side and contain Devontae Adams, you kind of figure out the Raiders offense. Josh Jacobs looked good last night, but the defense is just not good. And it's not going to help you win any games. And now you're in the AFC West where I don't even know if you're, and especially just in the AFC in general, I don't even know if you can make a wild card at this point. I know it's early, but it's still, you're 1-4, and it's not going to get any easier with who you're going to be facing. I mean, the Chargers are 3-2, the Chiefs are 4-1, the Broncos are 2-3. the Chiefs and the Chargers both have pretty big games coming up this week. And if the Chiefs win their huge game, they're 5-1 and they look like the favorites in the
Yeah.
AFC. And then if the Chargers win their game against the Broncos, hey, they're 4-2. So that's something where it's like, hey, if you lose this game, you're going to be starting 1-5. And I don't think, and I honestly, I feel like you need at least, that means you can't lose any other games because you need at least
Yeah.
11 or 12 wins. I think if you want to make that wild card, I'm being dead honest when I say that about the wild card. The wild card is going to be tight this year for the AFC. You know, it's going to be a tight wild card race. The Raiders are not going to be able to sneak in. I mean, yeah, you'll need some help. You'll need some teams to lose some, but going 1-5 and you had all these holes for the playoffs, I think you nail it on the head. It's Josh McDaniels, man.
Oh,
This
by
this
far.
this guy is just, I don't know. Like, to me, when they hired Josh McDaniels, part of me was saying, are they going to get Tom Brady? Because that was like part of me why, like, I was like, okay, that's weird. McDaniels. That's
Okay.
kind of a weird hire, like it makes no sense. But then I was like, oh, Brady retired. Maybe he wants to go to Vegas. I mean, there was that rumor that originally he was supposed to go to Vegas thanks to Dana White of the UFC, but it never ended up happening. And that started the clip of Tom Brady saying, "You're sticking with this motherfucker." Well, this motherfucker is Derek Carr. So we figured out that Derek Carr is that this motherfucker guy. Everyone thought it was Tua. Everyone thought it was some rookie quarterback that he was talking about. As you know, my Chargers were finalists for Tom Brady at one point in time. So
You were?
I wouldn't have minded, Herbert to learn from Brady. I'm just saying. But the Raiders pretty much, they messed it up. They messed up what could have been a good team and a good chemistry, and now they're bad. And it's going to be interesting to see moving forward how they respond to this, because I feel like they need to at least get to like 3-5 or 3-4 just to feel comfortable, because they got to at least get a winning streak going, because 1-4, 1-5 ain't cutting it. But Anthony,
Yeah.
you know what team doesn't have to worry about their record right now? It's early, but the Giants are 4-1. Who had this on their bingo card this year? I don't think either you and I were high on the New York Giants.
No,
But
no,
but
no.
but Brian Dable, this man right here, he's coaching above his head, and I gotta say he's doing a hell of a job. And that game against the Packers in London, man, that was a fun game. And not to mention too, I liked what I saw from Danny Dimes. I was like, oh, what the this Danny Dimes is built different. This is weird. Like, guy has an ankle injury, he's bleeding on his hand, he's throwing these rifles, he doesn't really have any receivers to throw to. Saquon's been looking good. But I want to ask you, Anthony, we know that the Giants, they're fun, but are they
Mm-hmm.
good? Do you view them as a good team in the NFL? Or is this just, hey, look, they're playing above themselves, they'll come back to earth, they're really a 9-8 team at the end of the day?
I think it's going to be hard to be 9-8. That's only 5 more wins on their schedule this year. Man, this is a good team, and Brian Dabble, like, that's where we can start with. I was a big fan of his. At the Vikings, we're going to go with a new head coach, first timer. That was the one I wanted, and he's definitely impressed. I think we were just talking about Josh McDaniels being the reason the Raiders are bad. I think he's the reason the Giants are good this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1-2. They're in a tough division, surprisingly. I don't think anybody expected the East to be the best division in football this year, but they are. 3 of the teams have 1 loss or less. So even with that, they might be fighting for a wild card. I don't know if they have what it takes to win the division this year, but man, Daniel Jones, he might save him from being a bust. We might see a few more years of Daniel Jones in New York. Who knows? How good can they be? I feel like their ceiling, I think they can make the wild card. I think there's a very good chance they make the playoffs. But their ceiling, I think if you could walk away in Brian Dabble's first year with a playoff win, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
that's something you can build on. That's such a successful first year, and I think it's a very possible thing. Especially you look at the rest of the NFC. Packers beating the Packers in a neutral field in London. I think that's a pretty big deal. Now they're a full game behind the Vikings for first in the division. So the South doesn't look good outside of the Buccaneers. The East doesn't look that great either. So, as long as the Giants keep doing what they're doing, they should easily be a playoff team this year. Might be hard. Eagles are looking really good, and they
Yeah.
still have a lot of divisional games ahead of them. But man, I feel like a wild card win. That's probably their ceiling this year, and that's a lot taller of a ceiling than I think anybody expected.
I think that the Giants, one thing, because also a Dable guy, he used to coach at Alabama as the offensive coordinator, Roll Tide. Um, he knows how to maximize the talent around him. I really wanted him for the Chargers because I felt that Dable would have been a good guy for Justin Herbert and his development, especially because Herbert gets kind of really compared to Josh Allen a lot. So I was kind of hoping for him, but I'm a little bit not surprised that Dable's getting the most out of his team. Am I surprised by the 4-1 record? Yes. And a lot of people are going to say, well, who did they play? You can only play who's in front of you. And what matters is how impressed are you when watching the team? And when I watch the Giants, minus the game against the Cowboys, I've been damn impressed with this team. I've been saying, man, this team looks good. How can I go ahead and say that this team's bad? They're missing one of their key defensive linemen, and Leonard Williams. He hasn't really played much for them. Dexter Lawrence has stepped up for them. That defense, full of nobodies. Like I can't even name you. They lost their best linebacker at the start of the season, though, Cashman.
Mm-hmm.
He left the team. He said, oh, yeah, we decided it wasn't a good fit. You felt, oh, my God, that's bad. You're losing one of your top defensive players already? This guy's just saying, oh, I'm not a good fit. What does this mean for the Brian Dable regime? The offense, look, who is he throwing to, Daniel Jones? These guys are practice squad players. I don't need, Kenny Galladay still stinks, and he's injured again, I believe. Who's the other one that's not Darius Slayton? What's his name? I would get Darius Slayton and the other one confused a lot.
Give me a minute, I'll figure it out, Chase.
Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard.
Don't they just feel similar? Like they just you could put them together and you could just look at their body types. They look the same, like their body types, the way they play. Very similar wide receivers. Hope Sterling Shepard recovers. By the way, the Chargers, you could sign Sterling Shepard this offseason. It'd be good too.
Kadarius Toney.
Kadarius Toney's not doing anything for that team anyways. He's not even playing.
No, but they spent a first-round draft pick on him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. All these talent that they have or don't have, he's playing above with what he has, like these wide receivers. And I feel like if anything cost the Giants this season from their record, it's not because of the coach, but just because the talent finally catches up to them. Because that ultimately is what the NFL is about, who has the best talent on the field.
Yeah.
And their DBs are not really the strongest. A bunch of former first-round talents from other teams that they decided to sign, hopefully to fill the plugs there. Wide receivers, not anyone to really be afraid of. So that's what I always tell people. Talent will overshine, but I think the Giants are a good football team, and it's up to them to see if the talent either improves or plateaus during the middle of the year.
They have a week 9 bye. They play the Ravens at home and then on the road against the Jaguars and Seahawks. There's a good chance they're at least 6-2 going into their bye. And that's a good way to start.
Yeah, no, 6-2. Oh yeah, 6-2 is a great way to start. Heck, maybe, dude, 7-1. Maybe the Giants are the best record entering to their bye week.
Seahawks are a little better than I think we thought. Same with the Jaguars, but those are both winnable games. And hosting the Ravens, like that's even if they were to lose to the Jaguars and or Seahawks, they can beat the Ravens. That's a huge win.
I actually have them beating the Ravens this week because I feel Lamar doesn't play well in New York. I've never seen the guy play good in New York. I always feel like he hates that environment. And there's certain places to play where I feel like home field advantage does matter. I think the New Yorks do matter because it's so cold and those players are acclimated to that type of thing. And, not to say Baltimore doesn't get cold. It's in the Maryland area. But just different wind shields, wind speeds. You know what I'm trying to talk about here, Anthony. Different winds of that nature. So, yeah, I actually have the Giants as an upset. I chose a lot of upsets this week in my pick'ems. I hate doing office pick'ems because people just choose the favorites all the time, and that's too easy. So I like to choose a little bit of a different route here or there. But anyways, Anthony, last thing, and then we'll talk about our teams, what we got coming up this week. Non-QB MVPs. Anthony, so far we talked about our current MVP picks. I have Lamar Jackson. I believe you said Josh Allen was your MVP pick in week number 4. Now, let's just say QBs, we devalue them a little bit. Who's your non-QB MVP? Who are you giving your non-QB MVP award? offensive player of the year award, defensive player of the year award, technically, but who are you getting your non-QB MVP award to?
Well, I think I have to stick home with this one. I think I got to go with the wide receiver one, not of the Vikings, of the NFL. Justin Jefferson, the 2020, true 2020 rookie of the year in the NFL.
Just stop. No, just stop.
He is the
ridiculous,
uncrowned 2020 NFL rookie of the year, and he is absolutely killing it. I always think it's funny when people talk about how the trade the Vikings did with the Bills that ultimately landed Justin Jefferson for the Vikings, how they're like, man, that might be one of the best deals for both teams ever in a trade. And I'm like, yes, like the Bills, I'm sure, are very happy with Stephon Diggs, but I think the Vikings definitely got the better end of that trade. I mean, as good as Stephon Diggs is, Justin Jefferson is a step above him. He's a little bit younger than him,
He's
too.
Phenomenal.
I mean, he is by far, year 3, he is killing it. He is outpacing Randy Moss in Viking statistics, who was also killing it in his first 3 years and many years after that. I mean, we look at Odell Beckham, who he was getting compared to early in the career. Hopefully he doesn't end up like Odell, where he kind of falls off. But I think Justin Jefferson, he is killing it right now. If they were to give MVP to somebody who's not a quarterback, it's got to be him. He had a couple games where he didn't do too much, but he's rebounded with a lot of strength. He did very well last week against the Bears, and I believe he's going to continue to do that this season.
Justin Jefferson is a great pick. Shout out to Nick Chubb. I was going to choose him, but this man, he's one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. I hope kids are growing up watching this man and loving him like I would love great defensive players when I was a kid. Micah Parsons. Oh my God, this guy is a one of one. Like, what did he get drafted? 11th or something like that? 11th or 12th? Like, he got drafted somewhere low, right? Like, somewhere higher than expected. Like, golly, if you redid the draft that he wasn't. What draft was he in? 2 years ago, right?
I don't remember.
No, he was in last year's draft. He was in last year's draft, Michael Parsons. Who went number 1 last year's draft?
He went number 12. Number 1 in 2021 was none other than Trevor Lawrence.
Do you think the Jaguars just say screw Trevor Lawrence and then go with Michael Parsons at this point? Because he fits everything that, like, he's like what Trayvon Walker aspires to be, man. Because this guy so good in coverage, can pass rush the quarterback. He's just phenomenal, man. He's just absolutely a phenomenal talent. I have a little man crush on Micah Parsons, Anthony. I'm not gonna lie. I love me some Micah Parsons. He's really good. I mean, the guy was getting MVP chants in the Rams house. The Dallas Cowboys fans are chanting MVP towards him in the Rams house, man. He's just phenomenal. He's been one of the great players in the league. Shout out to Nick Chubb. He also, I think, a non-QB MVP, doing his best for the Browns. Trevon Diggs, also a non-QB MVP. And a rookie also made this list, Anthony, that I have. Sauce Gardner, non-QB MVP. He's been making people lost in the sauce, baby. So, Other honorable mentions, Derrick Henry, as always, and also from the Chargers, Austin Eckler.
He's been killing it this year. Austin Eckler's been doing great.
Yeah, he's a great little gadget running back. Rough first 3 weeks, but when Eckler gets going, he gets going. Anthony, who do the Vikings have this week?
This week, the Vikings get to go to Miami and play the Dolphins.
Ooh, that's a little trap gamey, don't you think?
It could be. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I think Tua is going to play. We'll see how that goes. I was hoping Teddy. I think even if Tua wasn't healthy, I don't think Teddy would be playing anyway. But, at first when they were 3-0, I was a little worried. I feel, even though it's a road game, I think this is going to be a win for the Vikings.
Do you think you guys are going to be acclimated by that muggy Florida heat by the time we get there?
I will see. Kirk Cousins is a deep Midwestern guy. So it is a little bit different down south without, especially this time of year. It's been in the 60s, 50s, next week 40s in the Midwest. That's not going to be how it is in Miami. So we'll see. I feel honestly, I feel pretty confident about this game. I don't think Tua should be playing. So we'll see. But I feel pretty good. What about you, Chase? Who are your Chargers playing?
Monday Night Football, baby. we got the Denver Broncos. Let's ride. Coming into town for SoFi
Okay.
Stadium. And I'm going to the game, Anthony. I'm going to the
Are you?
Monday Night Football game. Yes. I got some good tickets on Twitter. I messaged a guy. He gave me these tickets for a great price. And I said, hey, can't say no. As you know, I have a friend who plays on the Denver Broncos. So I'm also happy to see him,
There you go.
play, but not hurt any Chargers. Just root for him to get some tackles, but not root for him to actually win the game, because I would like to go 4-2 heading into this crucial game against Geno Smith and the Seahawks. So I can't believe I'm more worried about Geno Smith and the Seahawks than Russell Wilson and the Broncos. Former Charger great Geno Smith. You know he was on the Chargers at one point?
I forgot, but he was a back. Did he? No, he never started.
No, he was a backup. He backed up Mr. Phillip Rivers.
Of course, somebody's gotta.
Yeah, he had to. But yeah, I'm very excited to go to the game. I've been to one game at SoFi Stadium. Got sunburnt while I was there. It was against the Jaguars.
Really?
Overall, though, the Chargers have only lost 3 times since I've attended games. The 3 games that they've lost that I attended, one was against Kansas City. It was actually Mahomes' second year, week 1 against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I got to see Mahomes in person, which was pretty damn incredible, if I do say so myself. The other was Chargers versus Patriots, and I never leave games early, Anthony. That was the first game I left early in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, we were getting our asses kicked. And then the Jaguars and Chargers, and I didn't leave that one early at all. Even though we were getting our asses kicked, it was actually a fun time. It was a Hispanic Heritage game, so they had a bunch of cool halftime stuff celebrating Hispanic Heritage for Hispanic Heritage Month. So it was actually a really fun time. So I didn't leave that game early. It was actually fun, and got to walk around the stadium and stuff. So that one was more of a SoFi tour. I kind of just walked around SoFi and saw all the sights of sound. So the home of WrestleMania, Anthony.
WrestleMania. Yeah, we're gonna see our tribal chief there.
Yeah, and maybe he'll face Uncle Dwayne in a battle of who's the head of the table.
We can only hope.
Yep, but I feel like do you feel confident Vikings are winning this week, Anthony? I feel like they are.
I am too. I'm feeling pretty confident. I think hopefully it's not just because Tua's been out, but I think the Dolphins have come back down to earth a little bit, and Vikings are picking a good time to play them.
Yeah, I think this is a good trap game for the Chargers, especially after how sloppy we look. But I hope this is the get right game for the Chargers, where it's just Buck and Aikman are bored out of their minds that they have to watch the Chargers blow. I want this to be the Herbert showcase game, where Herbert just shows off that rocket arm and Joe Buck is just and Justin Herbert, he's just phenomenal. Look at how he throws the football there. He's just talking about how much he loves Justin Herbert. Collinsworth is just sitting there on Sunday Night Football being like, now here's a guy that can't really call a good Sunday night game because none of these Sunday night teams want to play good. Can we get a good Sunday night game? Mike, what's the Sunday night game? What's the Sunday night game, Anthony? Chris Collinsworth really wants to know what the Sunday night game is.
The Sunday night game?
It's Eagles and Cowboys, right?
I think.
Has to be.
Here, I can verify it for you in a second, Chase. But I think you're right.
Collinsworth is probably excited.
You are right.
I get to see Jalen Hurts. I get to see Micah Parsons. I get to see Trevon Diggs. Oh, man, hopefully this is a fun game and not a boring. Because, man, Sunday Night Football has been rough, man. Thursday night, Sunday night. Monday night's had a couple of good games, so it's not been too bad for the Monday night squad. But, man, Collinsworth and Al, I think them separating caused this friction, Anthony. I think the football guards are trying to say that Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, they usually be together to have these good games. So
I miss them together. I really do. They were my favorite duo.
I miss when Collinsworth would go out. This is just phenomenal. Did you see what he did there? It's so, I miss that, I miss the dynamic, Al Michaels, talking about the game, and then Collinsworth just slides on in, and oh man, I miss it. Now Herb Street, do you feel like Kirk Herbstreit watches NFL football? Because I feel like he's lost half the time talking Thursday night.
I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
Poor Herbie. Yeah. All right, Anthony. You have a good one, my friend. Thank you guys so much for tuning in live to this. If you guys are checking on Spotify, please hit that play button. Hit the follow button as well. We're close to getting 50 followers, guys. That means maybe I could get you guys some free swag. Maybe get you guys some ad promo codes. Who knows? We shall see. Yeah, close enough, Anthony. Shout out to the wrestling podcast for boosting that up. By the way, wrestling and MMA podcasts are coming out this week, and also live on the channel. I'll be doing my usual Q&As. But yeah, I'll be on the lookout for the next wrestling podcast and the next MMA podcast as things are ramping up in those worlds. For Anthony Gentleman, my name is Chase Oliver. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a wonderful day.